Good morning, y'all. Let's talk the U.S. Supreme Court. Because today is Friday, June 27th, 2025, and they're set to release about 6 decisions before they go on break. And when they go on break, they won't come back for another term until October 2025, but they will be available to rule on emergency decisions during that break, which there's going to be some emergency cases filed because that's what 47 does. Everything that he's told no on by a lower court is considered an emergency for him. But let's talk about the big one, the Birthright Citizenship case. You see, back on January 20th, 2025, that was just a little over 5 months ago, people. I know it may seem like 5 years, but just a little over 5 months. Anyway, he signed an executive order, because that's all he does, and it was on birthright citizenship. Now let's backtrack a little bit. I think one of the very first things we learn as little kids in school, and probably even at home, is if you're born in America, you are a U.S. citizen. Well, with this executive order, there's 2 scenarios where even if you're born in America, you would not be considered a U.S. citizen. Let's talk about those scenarios. The first one, your mother is here unlawfully, and, because see, both scenarios deal with your mom and your dad. So your mom is here unlawfully, and your dad is not a U.S. citizen or a legal permanent resident. Under that, you're born here, you will not be considered a U.S. citizen. Okay, that's scenario 1. Scenario 2, your mom is here legally, but on a temporary basis. Maybe she has some kind of visa waiver program. She's a participant in that. Or she's here on a student, work, or tourist visa. So she's here legally, just temporarily. And your dad, again, he's not a U.S. citizen or a permanent legal resident. If you're born to parents like that, you would not be considered a U.S. citizen either. So the case that's before the Supreme Court is not on the meat, not on the basis, the basic executive order. Someone filed a lawsuit at a lower court, and the lower court put an injunction, says Trump could not start enacting that executive order while the case is being heard in the lower courts. So they put a kibosh on it, temporary injunction. That's what's before the U.S. Supreme Court, that injunction. So even if the court rules for Trump in this injunction case, meaning the court system, they're still going to hear the meat of the case, more than likely. So that's the big one. Another one is the Federal Communications Commission, FCC. Well, in some underserved areas, they subsidize phone and internet services for people, basically probably in the poor areas. Well, Trump administration or whoever filed, I couldn't find out who filed this, they don't want the FCC to subsidize that. And that's part of what I've been saying about the Trump administration. They're doing the push, PUSH. They want to keep us poor, uneducated, sick, and hungry. If you don't have access to phone or internet, you can't do any research. You can't call up somebody and ask a question. So that's part of the U in push. That's why they don't want the FCC subsidizing phone or internet for services for people in underserved areas. So just be mindful. Keep your eyes on the prize today. Keep checking the internet, Google, so you can get updates on these decisions coming out of the Supreme Court today. And just one more thing before I go. That big, beautiful tax bill, that Senate parliamentarian, who's female, by the way, and some of the Republicans are calling about trying to get rid of her now. She's putting all kind of kiboshes on that bill, especially about the Medicaid and that provider tax. Watch my video from yesterday, and I'll tell you in that video about that provider tax. But yeah, she's wreaking havoc on those jokers in the Senate, and now they more than likely have to work through the weekend, can't go on break, to try to basically rewrite parts of the bill to get it to go through the parliamentarians' review. Then it can go to a vote before the Senate. Then it's got to go back to the House for them to vote on it. So stay tuned on that too, y'all. Have a great weekend and have a great day.